Welcome everyone to our second session in our series for organizational change management. Today's topic is building alignment, energizing leadership for ERP success. Link ERP, for those of you not familiar, Link ERP Partners is a specialized ERP consulting firm built by seasoned Infor and Lawson experts who have been delivering successful ERP solutions since 1997. We're a team of consultants that average over 20 years of Infor experience, having supported nearly 500 organizations across healthcare, public sector, education, utilities, retail, hospitality, and research. Many clients recognize us from firms like Bales & Associates, Paradigm, and ISH, where we've brought the trusted expertise back together with a modern flexible delivery model with Link ERP. What differentiates us is our focus on real outcomes, not just implementations. We combine deep technical knowledge with organizational change management, ensuring solutions are adopted, embedded, and deliver long-term value after go live. Our leadership team brings hands-on, real-world experience. We lead growth and client success with a strong emphasis on long-term partnerships, while our change leadership capabilities led by Don Zabicki brings decades of experience guiding organizations through large-scale ERP transformations, aligning leaders, engaging stakeholders, and preparing teams for change. At Link ERP Partners, we believe ERP success happens at the intersection of people, process, and technology. My name is Luke Neal, the Director of Growth and Success here at Link ERP, and I have over 9 years of experience in the Infor and Lawson space. Today, presenting with me is Don Zabicki, who leads Envoy Change Management. And right now I'll turn it over to Don.
Hi, everybody. So for those of you who are new to our series, I'll do a brief introduction. For those of you who attended our first session, this is a bit of a repeat, but I'm Dawn Williams Zabicki. I'm the founder and the chief consultant at Envoy Change Management. I have had the privilege of partnering closely with the members of the Link ERP team for over 7 years. And I think together in partnership, we've done over 20 implementations together. It's been a real privilege to work with these folks in supporting our joint clients, helping them to implement Infor finance and supply management, human capital management, workforce management, and other Infor tools. All right, so let's get started with today's topic. Imagine being in a boat with your team. Everyone is rowing hard, but just not in the same direction. How far do you think you're going to go? And do you think you'll really realize the destination that you've set forth for yourself? I think there have been a number of projects, maybe you've experienced them yourselves, where you might have leaders associated to a project rowing in a different direction. And I want to give you a specific example. We did a project together probably about 6 years ago. It was a global manufacturing plant, and the client was implementing Infor human capital management. The leader of the project, the key project sponsor, was the Chief Human Resource Officer, CHRO. And she did everything that she could, everything she was supposed to get the organization prepared, deliver a vision, communicate with her team. Until about 6 weeks before the project, the Chief Operating Officer realized that the implementation of the HCM application was going to require his plant floor supervisors to look at resumes for new applicants, new potential employees online. The current way that they did the process was that recruiters would receive applications for job openings and print out those applications and put them on the desk of the supervisor. And the supervisor would read the resumes and then call the recruiter back and say, hey, I would like to interview Josh and Sally. Well, with the change with the implementation of HCM, all of this would be automated. Supervisors would go into the system, review resumes, simply click a checkbox and say, yes, I want to interview in person Josh and Sally. When the Chief Operating Officer learned that the supervisors on the plant floor would have to start going into their computers on a regular basis. The chief operating officer said, no way, we're not doing this, and put the project on hold. That's an example, real life example of two leaders in the same organization not recognizing what the implementation was going to do for the organization at large. And so we really had to stop the project, and we had to work with the CHRO and the COO, bring them together, align them on what the benefits of the system were going to deliver, so we could get the rest of the teams realigned to then implement, of course, the automation that was, at the end of the day, was a great benefit for the organization. Good news to that story, happy ending. Of course, the two leaders aligned, but it did take some time out of we missed the initial deadline for the project because of it. So when we think about leadership and the role that leaders play, we know that every ERP transformation has leaders who are committed. They're working hard, but without clarity on what the goals and objectives of the project are, without clarity on who a project sponsor might need to talk with, to build alignment with, you can see in the example that I provided that the project can go off course, you can lose momentum, and suffer additional risks and challenges with the project. Luckily, we have a process that we call leadership alignment and we have leadership roadmaps and readiness processes to help and support the leaders of a project drive the transformation that the project is intended to deliver. So a couple of things: strong leadership and active sponsorship by a project sponsor are really very critical in ERP success. As a matter of fact, ProSci, who is the global leader in change management change management research, shows that projects that have a highly successful sponsor are nearly 3 times more likely to meet the goals and objectives that they set for a project like this. Very, very significant. Today, I am going to show you a little bit about how Envoy Change Management, myself and my team, how we help support leaders so that they can be a highly effective leader at supporting the ERP success. When we work with sponsors and leaders, we develop a roadmap. We help them to identify the key audiences that leaders need to work with throughout the course of the project. Key audiences might include their peers, a steering committee, the project team, and end users of the system at the end of the day. We help leaders shape timely messages. We develop content for communication. We plan communication events. We deliver ready-to-use talking points. And we build in feedback loops, right? Surveys, questionnaires, etc., one-on-one conversations, so that we can keep our finger on the pulse of what's happening on the front lines, provide that back to leaders so that they can stay connected to the team, so that they can be responsive and ready to lead through all stages of the transformation. Today, what I want to cover with you, we're really just scratching the surface in terms of the importance of the role of the leader, but let's first talk about who leaders are. Then we'll talk about the role that leaders play in driving a change. And then we'll finish with how to integrate leadership alignment activities into your project plan. So let's start at the beginning. Who are the leaders? You might automatically think, oh, it's my project sponsor, right? Maybe you have a business project sponsor and an IT project sponsor. But if you look at the list that I have here on the slide, you'll see that it really is much more than just the project sponsor. If you have a steering committee guiding your project, every member of the steering committee is a leader for your project. Obviously, the project sponsors, project managers are leaders, core team members, both business representatives and IT representatives. You are leaders. Business process owners serve as leaders. Workstream leads serve as leaders. And then frontline managers and supervisors of people who will actually need to learn and use a new system and implement new processes. Those frontline managers and supervisors are critical to the leadership structure. So at the end of the day, a lot of you, and if you're listening to this, you're probably a leader on the project. So let's get into talking about what the role of the leader is in driving change. We start with, and for today's purpose, let's think about a project sponsor and a core team, as well as a steering committee in terms of key leaders on a project. The first thing that a leader needs to do, or a leadership team needs to do, is come up with a compelling vision and articulate very clear goals and objectives in terms of what the project is to achieve. As a leader, we want to be inspiring. We need to share with our stakeholders, with our peers, with end users, where we're trying to go, what we're trying to do with our implementation. Secondly, a leader's role is to participate visibly, be present throughout the project. What does that mean, participate visibly? All too often we see a project sponsor or a leader show up for the kickoff meeting, but then begin to blend back into the scenery and not be as involved or engaged until perhaps a project begins to fall off the rails a little bit. What we really encourage of the leadership groups within the clients that we work with is to keep leaders actively involved through every phase of the project. Understand where the project is, engage in all of the key milestones, and also engage with the project team members as they're going through the various phases of the implementation. As we get closer to go live, we want our project sponsors and leaders to be communicating with end users. That moves us into our third bucket of a leader's role, and that's communication. We encourage our leaders to communicate consistently, communicate what is happening, why the change matters, and we encourage our leaders to repeat it often. I had one leader, the CFO of an organization, we were implementing an Envoy FSM project, and I gave the CFO some communication content to deliver to his organization. And he said, well, I told them this last month in the town hall. I said, look, I think we want to make sure that we're communicating and hitting everybody. Perhaps not everyone was in the town hall. Perhaps not everyone was paying attention exactly to what you said. Perhaps not everyone heard the message the way you wanted to deliver it. So just like a good teacher might do, they might want to deliver a best practice is to deliver the same message in 7 different ways. So we do encourage our leaders to communicate even more. And the last bucket of a leader's role is to build a coalition of support across your peer group. In the example that I gave you when we first started out about the Chief Human Resource Officer not being in complete alignment with the Chief Operating Officer, it explains why this is so important, right? Our Chief Operating Officer was a member of the steering committee and had participated in almost all of the steering committee meetings, but just didn't hear the nature of the changes and how significant they were going to be for his organization. I think one of the comments he made was, this is an HR project. It's not a production manufacturing project. Until later, then we were able to explain to him, oh, this project will in fact impact people across the organization. So it's important for a project sponsor or a project manager or a business process owner to make sure you are building support amongst your peers, helping people to understand what's coming down the pike, helping people to understand the changes they're about to experience, and get them on board. The next thing I want to talk about is bringing our roles, responsibilities as leaders into that Envoy implementation journey. Throughout each phase of the implementation project plan, there are activities that we like to build in for leaders during the course of the project. So I'm going to walk through some of the things that we recommend that leaders do based on the phase of the project that we're in. So if you're in the inception phase, this is the beginning part of the project, we're getting ready for kickoff. The first thing that we recommend, and this is really important, is that we align the boardroom with the project team. Why is that important? Think about as the steering committee, the executive committee, that committee of leaders who's pulled together to assess which software you're actually going to buy or upgrade to. A lot of that work happens in a boardroom. A lot of decisions are made, a lot of expectations are set, but often those goals, those objectives, and those expectations are not always shared with executive leadership to the actual working project team. And there's the first potential for a roadblock. If the board hasn't or steering committee hasn't communicated to the project team what the goals and objectives of the project are, then it is very likely that the project team might not meet all of those goals and objectives. So we like to encourage and facilitate that process of making that communication very clear and deliberate between the boardroom and the project team. It's also during the inception phase that we want our leaders of the project to begin to share the information about the vision of this project and the goals and objectives of the project with their peers, especially when you think about a project that is going to have impact across a broad number of stakeholders. In our example of implementing Envoy human capital management, some of the leaders on the steering committee thought, oh, this is just an HR project, until they realized, oh, this also includes employee self-service, for instance, and that will impact every employee in the organization. Or with an Envoy finance and supply management implementation, perhaps you're changing parts of your chart of accounts. And anyone in the organization who is writing or approving invoices might need to be aware of a change to a chart of accounts. And with every project that impacts finance, there is always change to reporting. And people across your organization will use financial reporting. They need to be informed, which means your CFO needs to be communicating with every leader of every function or department within your organization that uses or relies on any financial reporting. That's what we mean by saying your sponsors, your leadership team needs to build that understanding, build that relationship, and that support amongst their peers. And then finally, we encourage our leaders to participate in the kickoff meeting. Demonstrating your support from day one helps the rest of the team understand that you're making this a priority, and they will too. Moving into the design and build phase, another recommendation that we like to make to leaders is to set guiding principles for the project team as they're designing the solution. Part of that comes out of the alignment between the boardroom and the project team, but this becomes very intentional to make sure that as the accounts payable department, for instance, is designing their new future state process, that they're doing so based on goals and expectations that executive management has determined they want to see out of this project. Maybe it's eliminating manual entry of invoices, or reducing the amount of spreadsheets that are being used to calculate and put together financial reporting. So set guiding principles for the design phase. And then, like any good coach, if you're setting metrics or guiding principles for the design and build phase of the project, you want to monitor to ensure that the team is meeting those design principles. So you want to take time and validate that what is being designed and what is about to be built in your system, in fact, meets your transformation goals. This is also a time when you want to begin hosting check-ins with your project team. It's very important that the leaders, both from the steering committee perspective as well as sponsors, are checking in with that project team. They're really beginning to feel the pressure of the weight of the project. Check in, make sure that they are doing well. They're managing and juggling a lot. This allows you, again, to sort of keep your ear to the roar of what's happening. Begin to host town halls to start introducing to the organization what is coming down the pike. Moving into that testing and training phase, we like to recommend communication kits being developed so that the sponsor or the steering committee can help other leaders deliver communications to their teams. The last thing that you want is for a testing or training activity to be held. You have end users in a testing event or a training event. They go back to their manager and it goes up the chain of command that, oh, this system doesn't work the way the old system does. Leaders in individual departments need to be able to be prepared with talking points to help folks to overcome and understand what the direction is. So we like to put together communication kits so that leaders know how to respond to their people when they come back with a question or a concern after being a part of a testing event or a training class. Acknowledge that there's a learning curve, right? And reassure folks that they will have the chance to continue to grow and learn with the system. Another thing I like to recommend is for leaders to actually go to a testing event. Sit down with the team, put your hands on the keyboard, demonstrate your support. Walk around the room, ask, how are things going? What is working well? What is not working well? And communicate, 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 communicate. Now moving into the go live phase, we always have a great number of communications that come from steering committee, project sponsors, and then frontline leaders as well. Based on the message that needs to be delivered, we tweak who the right messenger should be. So for instance, go live announcements, we want to come from the project sponsor that explain we're going live on September 1st, be ready, here's where you can find key resources. But information about specifics in doing a job, that information comes best from a frontline leader. And so we'll build communications that can be delivered by frontline leaders. We want to make sure that as you're going through the go live that you're communicating with confidence and celebrating small wins. And of course, as you do encounter hurdles, and every project does during go live, that you're listening, you're paying attention, and then helping the team to respond to issues that are occurring. In that optimization phase, we want to reinforce new processes, make sure that the new behaviors are in place, and that we're monitoring any metrics that have been set up to demonstrate when you have reached your full productivity levels, if you will. Considering moving to a new system, there's typically a dip in performance, typically a dip in productivity. Things just slow down, right? It takes us longer because we're still getting used to the system. But then we come out of that valley and we reach our standard levels of performance and hopefully exceed that. So you want to monitor those metrics. Of course, you want to recognize and reward both the project team and users for adopting the new system and processes, and of course gather feedback and share that feedback as necessary in terms of if retraining needs to occur, where improved automation has occurred, continuous improvement is going on during these phases. So the leader is really involved during all phases of the implementation, not just at the kickoff, not just announcing the go live, but the leader plays such a critical role throughout the life cycle of the project. Leaders are the engine of a transformation. Understanding your role as a leader and integrating activities into the project plan really help to make sure that your ERP project can be as successful as possible. As we mentioned very early on, there are many leaders on an ERP project. You don't have to have the title sponsor next to your name to be a leader. I'm sure you could see based on your role where you can perform any of these activities. Recognize the importance of your role as a leader. Share the vision and the objectives of the project with your teams, with your peers, etc. Be visible. Be a part of the project. Don't hide in your corner office. Don't hide in your cube, but be visible, interacting with the project team. Communicate consistently. Build a coalition of support amongst your peers, and make sure that you're integrating leadership actions into the project plan. We've just scratched the surface today on leadership and the role of leadership. If you would like to take a deeper dive into how we support leaders, as we mentioned, we know leaders are busy, and having a change manager working side by side with a leader, providing that content, providing those nudges to get out in front of people or recommunicate information, or just having our finger on the pulse of what's happening on the project to share back with you as a leader so that you can be more effective. If you'd like to take a deeper dive into that, please feel free to reach out to Luke from the Link ERP team. And please also feel free to continue this OCM journey with us. Our next training is going to be clearing the obstacles, managing resistance to change. So with that, I am going to hand it back to Luke.
Thank you so much, Dawn. As Dawn mentioned, if you'd like to learn more about how we can help you and your organization navigate your current or future ERP project, please feel free to reach out to us and schedule a one-on-one. Thank you so much, and we hope you have a great day.